Well, Britain's Brexit was served as setback today when the country's Supreme Court ruled against the UK government in a key Brexit lawsuit. The ruling states that Parliament must first approve a strategy to leave the EU before action can be taken.
The move delays Prime Minister Theresa May's plan to trigger negotiations by the end of March through a government loophole called Article 50. That would have allowed Britain to leave the EU without Parliament's go-ahead. So joining us now in New York is Roland Jones. He's a former financial journalist and currently works as the managing editor of Enterprise.nxt. How are you?
Very well.
So how are the markets responding to this?
So we didn't see too much of a reaction in the equity markets, but we did see a decline in the UK pound, which is something we've seen a lot when there's been discussions about Brexit. So we've seen significant declines since the vote last June to exit the EU, and today people are talking about the pound as a kind of a barometer of whether we'll get a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit. So a soft Brexit is where there's some sort of compromise and the UK stays in some of the institutions of the EU. A harder Brexit is more of a clean break, and that's the uncertainty that's driving down.
And did I see it today that it was 1.2 to the dollar? Is that right?
Yes,
it's that low?
Yes,
I mean, I was there like a year ago. It was like 1.7.
Right,
it's pretty
yes. It's
remarkable.
Been, if you look at the chart, it's really kind of a precipitous decline.
That's pretty remarkable. The Britons who were behind leaving the European Union are crying foul this morning. They're saying the fact that they voted for this back in June, so Parliament shouldn't be the one to suddenly dictate the leave from this. Do they have momentum in sort of changing the direction of this?
You mean the people who are...
The people who are saying that they don't agree with this decision in Parliament.
Well, so what will happen now is David Davis, the Brexit Secretary, has said that he's now going to introduce legislation, a sort of legislative response from the government to this, because, of course, this was a ruling against the government, so they have their response. I think we'll see this act move pretty swiftly. They've said they're going to bring something to the Parliament to vote on pretty soon. It's going to be something very short, probably says something like, should we trigger Article 50? And if you look at the dynamics, the politics in the UK government, the ruling Conservative Party has a majority of 14 in the Commons, and so it's, I think only one MP has said he'll vote against this. The leader of the opposition Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, has said that he won't frustrate Article 50, the triggering Article 50, so it's unlikely we'll see something block this significantly. Maybe a few delays, but the government should make their end of March deadline on this, I think.
Roland, I want to put up a tweet from Nigel Farage. As you know, he campaigned hard to leave the EU. He was also at President Trump's inauguration on Friday. In a tweet, he said, quote, "The establishment are trying to delay the Brexit process. People are getting angry about it," end quote. Farage was rumored to be up for a diplomatic position.
Right.
What do you think his role going forward will be?
Wow, well, he's sort of, I think I doubt he'll get that diplomatic position, but he's sort of an agitator. I think the pro-Brexit folks like to keep him in the limelight because he's kind of a lightning rod for that sentiment that you do hear in Britain now. People just want them to get on with this leaving of the EU quickly. So I think we'll see Farage in the headlines for some time to come.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was at an event during the inauguration where Nigel Farage was sort of the headliner, and in that speech he said specifically, this is now the new world order, that people thought we were far to the right and that this couldn't. Do you see this being a domino effect throughout Europe? A Nigel Farage type person, more people more to the right? I mean, a year ago, he was kind of characterized as this crazy man who no way was Brexit going to come through. And look at, he is sort of the strong man standing now, is he?
Right. We are seeing a rise of populism. We've seen Trump elected here. We're looking at the vote for the presidential vote in France is significant, and Marine Le Pen is gaining momentum there. Also in Austria and in Germany too, there are some movements. So yes, this is an interesting time in terms of politics and geopolitics, and we should keep an eye on the financial markets, see how they react to this.
It'll be interesting to see if Marine Le Pen does do well, or if she even is elected president in France. I suspect not, but you never know. Meanwhile, Scotland has said that they'd like to break away from the United Kingdom because of the Brexit vote. Do you think that'll happen?
I don't. So what's interesting about the Supreme Court decision today is that they said that the devolved parliaments in the UK, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, don't have to be consulted for this. So that kind of boxes out Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, who has threatened to really stand in the way of this because she argues that most of the people in Scotland didn't vote for Brexit, and so she has a cause to kind of agitate for another referendum there. But most polls are showing recently that there isn't a rising sentiment for independence in Scotland, so I don't think that's likely to gain too much momentum.
I'm curious how the Queen feels. Is there any? We never really know what she says. Not that it's a huge.
The Queen never
Reveals her
never
politics.
reveals her views on.
We saw that with the Scotland vote, didn't we?
Yes, exactly. She's sort of a figurehead who doesn't show her views either way, and long may that continue.
We know where you stand on the monarchy, Roland Jones. We thank you for your time, sir, all of these.